Hey everyone, Debra Angilletta here. Oh my gosh, we're here at the Successful Bookkeeper Virtual Summit. I am so excited to be having the opportunity to teach you all here today. Oh my gosh, I am so pumped. You guys are going to get so much out of this. I love it, love it, love it. And it's so great to be here with you. So today we're going to be diving into how to sell your bookkeeping and advisory services. So for some of you, sales may be a little bit like, I don't know about that. And then some people, you may say, you know what, I really have this dialed in. And you want to know what, no matter where you are on the spectrum, you're going to learn something here today. You know, when it comes to sales, taking that approach of like, some people have that thought in their head. They think of that used car salesman or that insurance agent that has that pester factor, right? When it comes to sales, that's not what we're talking about with sales. We're talking about a very, very comfortable conversational way to up level your sales skills. And that's what you're in for here today. So once again, my name is Debra Angilletta, and I can't wait to dive in here with you because I love this community so much. I work with bookkeepers and accountants all day long in my own practice. So that's why what you do is so near and dear to my heart. And I know how hard you work. And so let's do some up leveling here today. So here's what you can expect to learn is that we're going to be going over the proven words and phrases to up level your advisory skills and get out of that compliance model. I actually hear this from so many people that they're looking to make that transition and they're not quite sure how. So we're going to be giving you the words that you actually use on a sales call so you can start really stepping into that seat super comfortably. And the next thing is you want to be able to show your value as you move from compliance and even bookkeeping services, which are so fantastic and there's so much value in it as well. We're going to show you that the value where it resides in your current bookkeeping services as well as advisory, and be able to illustrate that a little bit more for you. And the last thing is, and I hear this all the time from so many bookkeepers and accountants, is that they feel like they're an imposter when they try to speak to prospects or even current clients about up leveling some services. They feel like, oh my gosh, I'm not quite ready for this. It kind of feels like I'm in somebody else's clothing and it feels really, really weird. But we want to make sure that we're getting rid of imposter syndrome. I know how great you are, and I want you to be able to step into this. And I have a way for you to be able to do that, not feel like you're faking it till you make it, right? Especially if you're up leveling to that advisory seat. We don't want to do that, but I've got something that I think is going to be super comfortable for you that you're going to want to dive into. So those are the things we're going to talk about. So when it comes to all of this, as I was going through the presentation, I'm like, wow, we've got some really, really great stuff here. And I think I'm going to make a bold statement here. What if I said that you can walk away from this training today with a new engagement? Wouldn't that be super exciting? Well, I think you can with some of the steps in here, but just remember, doesn't matter what I teach, it's about you taking action, all right? But we're going to give you those action steps as well. We've got it all covered in this presentation. So, all right, so the first thing is put your seatbelts on. We're talking about sales, right? So why is getting your sales dialed in so important? Well, you want to know what? It was one thing a year ago, and now this year it's actually something a little different. I'm going to show you what that is. We have a new competitor. We have a new competitor in this space, and it's something that it's been back here and it's been nipping at our heels, but guess what? It's here. It used to be just other accountants and bookkeepers were our competition, but no, 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 no. We have to meet our newest contender. Look at this. Artificial intelligence, right? It has been on the horizon. Well, everyone, it is here and we can no longer ignore it. So what we have to do is we have to get really smart and we have to start working with it, right? So if you haven't seen this yet, here's some companies that are operating in this space. We've got this company, and guess what? Since I did a presentation 2 months ago, there's another one that's online right now that just came to being. So you want to know what? We've got 2 out there right now, and this is just going to keep multiplying. So we have to find a way in order to head off this type of competition, this AI competition, and there are definitely ways to do that. We're going to be going over that. So it's here. So we got to talk about it, right? And there are ways around it. So we've got to be proactive, and that's exactly why you're here today. So we're going to get into it. And so what we mean by that, being proactive, is that we've got to be innovative, right? We just have to think a little differently, come up with a couple of different tactics and strategies so we can get around this. It's there, right? We can't ignore it. We can't put our head in the sand, and we can't sit there and beat it up physically, right? But there are things that we can do to go ahead and surpass that challenge. All right. So for those of you, some of you know me, some of you don't. My name is Debra Angilletta, and I do work with accountants and bookkeepers on making selling seamless for them to close with confidence and provide industry-specific, simple, proven sales techniques. So here's the thing. We can go through all of this, but what I want all of you to know is that I do all my own sales calls. I don't have anybody on my team doing that for me. So I want you to know I'm in the sales trenches every single day alongside all of you. So I'm not just kind of this guru on the stage teaching this stuff. I'm really your guide on the side because I'm taking sales calls day after day after day. Wow, I've done so many of them up to this point, but I know exactly what works and what doesn't work. And I put a lot of time and effort into it so you don't have to. All right. All right. So I'm also a Profit First professional. Those of you who are within Profit First, you may know that organization, and I'm part of them, been there for quite some time, since back in 2016. So here's the thing. I show you this picture. It's because when I was younger and, I really liked to talk on the phone, and, behind my mom's back, I would pick up the phone and pretend I was talking to somebody. I loved to play with the phone. But here's the thing. A lot of people think when it comes to sales that they have to be born a salesperson. And I want you to know from the bottom of my heart that there's no way I was born a salesperson. Absolutely not. But I always like to say, if we just kind of simplify the sales thing really, really down to its core, if you can actually pick up a phone still to this day, right? Pick up a phone or actually get on right now we're on this medium of Zoom and whatnot. So if you can get on a Zoom call or if you can pick up a phone, you can become good at sales. It does take a little practice, but there are some strategies that we're going to be talking about that really help you dial this in. So I was not born a salesperson, but when I went to school and I went through my career, I actually got a degree in finance and economics. That's my background. And I know many of you, when you studied either at college or university, whatever degrees that you got, you probably don't recall a sales course, right? Yeah, because they don't teach it. They don't teach it. They teach you how to be good in your vocation, but they don't teach you how to sell it or market it for that matter, right? So when it comes to selling it, there's a big black hole with the knowledge, right? So it's not your fault. When it came time for me to move from college, I started working in a bank, and that's where I got my chops when it started to come on the sales journey. And then as I moved through, I went into financial planning. Sales started to become a little bit more important. I would just watch the people around me and just do what they did, right? And then I made my way to Wall Street, and that was my most recent career before I went out on my own. And so this is where I learned a lot more sales skills. But once again, I didn't have any formal sales training. It was a matter of just copying what the people did around me that I thought worked. And was I the number one salesperson? No, not by any means, but I got by. But here's the thing. When I was on Wall Street, I got pretty good at selling other people's stuff. And you'll see how that all kind of shifts, because I did have a bombshell moment. Once I left Wall Street, I got pregnant with my daughter and decided to start my own business. I soon figured out that I may have a little problem, right? Like, Houston, we have a problem. But I went out, I left my job, I started my business. And you know that when you start your own business, you're like, yeah, this is so exciting. This is great. But now guess what? I got to get some clients. So what do? So I had a little bit of a problem. So I had not so much of a sales problem yet, but I had a big time problem. That was probably the biggest one here, right? Because I had my daughter, I had somebody staying with her a couple of days a week. I had 2 days a week to really work on my business and really get that up and running. So I had a huge time problem. So what I did was back in the day is I had to figure out the fastest path to cash. So what I would do is I actually use speaking as a way to do this. I got trained in corporate to speak in front of groups. That's one little piece that I had that was really dialed in. So what I would do is I would go out to the local chamber of commerce. I would give a talk. And then what I would do is I would offer free initial sales conversations. And so that's what really started my business. I would get maybe 20 people in a room, 10 sales conversations, 3 to 5 new clients. I liked those numbers. Don't they sound good? Well, I had the idea one day. I was like, listen, if I want to really 10x this business or get it to grow faster, because I didn't have a lot of time, I've got to figure out the fastest path to cash. And so what I did was I decided to put money down, take my hard-earned money. And I figured if I could get in front of an audience of people, more people, right? I was getting in rooms of 20 people, but if I could get in a room of 100 people, 200 people, 300 people, 400 people, 500, I could really 10x my business, right? So that's what I did. I plopped down $15,000 on a sponsorship. And what that is when you pay to be on somebody else's stage, they take care of all the marketing, they get the butts and seats, and you put on a presentation. And that day, I did really, really well. I did a great presentation, walked out with 75 sales conversations, and I was on over the moon with regards to my results. So, right, I figured if I could 10x this, I'd be in front of a bigger audience and then come out with loads of cash on the other side, right? But here's the thing. I went ahead after that presentation, I went back with my 75 sales conversations. And as I was making my way through, the reality of something started to come up, right? When it came to sales. So I was making my way through, it took me about 6 weeks to get through all those conversations. And I came out the other end with no clients, right? No clients. I have to tell you, that was one of the most disappointing moments in my life. And boy, was I butthurt when it came to that. Not only did I lose $15,000 that I was hoping that I would at least break even on, I was down in the dumps. And so what I knew I had to do at that point is I had to really pull myself up by my bootstraps and get some sales training, because what I figured out in all of this is the fact that I was really good at selling somebody else's stuff, but I was terrible at selling my own. And so that was the aha moment that really knew that I had to change all of it, because I just lost $15,000. It was like flushing money down the toilet. And I knew I had to really turn it around. And so what I figured out is that I was in front of an audience. I was with all of these people. I couldn't really sell myself. I was having the wrong conversations, and those conversations were lacking value. Nobody could see the value in what I was offering. And so this is where all of this comes together in this training today, right? Because when it comes to sales, we're not talking about just being that the car salesman, right? Like that example, the car salesman, and being like slimy. It's about having consultative sales. It's not so much about the transactional stuff when we're talking about compliance work. We want to go ahead and shift it to more consultative so that we can start up leveling the value and our prospects are able to understand it and see it. So I want you to know that there is a happier ending to this story, right? So there was a lot of work, over 10,000 hours of sales training I dove into. I've had over 28,000 sales calls on my own over all of these years. And I've helped my clients generate over 33 million in sales over the last 8 years that I've been working with them. And me, I work with bookkeepers and accountants all day long. I only offer advisory services. So I sit in this seat and I'm talking to your future clients because I know exactly what they want. So I don't do bookkeeping. I don't do accounting, but I work with you all day long. And like I said, there's so many people that are out there that you should be working with. Why? Because I'm talking to them all day long. So I'm going to kind of give you the inside baseball on all of that today. So who is this training for? It's for accountants, it's for bookkeepers, or anybody looking to shift into that advisory role. So we're going to go ahead and dive in. So if you want, go ahead, take a piece of paper and a pen. You can go ahead and jot some things down. I'll be taking some questions here. So go ahead and put those in, and I'll be answering as we go through the presentation. So the first thing is how do we up level to advisory? What is it that we do, right? So let's kind of back it up a little bit. It's the fact that there is an underlying problem is typically with bookkeepers and accounts with their conversations, it's more transactional, right? Like we was talking about before. It's more about leading with compliance questions. And this is where we have to start looking at it for what it is and start making that shift, right? So we have to really get out of the compliance. Why? Because AI is taking care of that for us, right? So we have to make sure that we are leading with advisory questions. What are those questions? How do we say it? What does it look like? So first, I want you to start mapping this out for yourself. So if you haven't taken out a piece of paper and a pen yet, do so now. And I want you to go ahead and play along with me here. So have you ever heard from any of your clients, I never have money to pay my taxes? Have you ever heard that? I'm sure you have more than once. I want to pay myself more. Do you know how I can pay myself more? Right? Maybe that has come out before. I want something to show for all of my hard work. I don't know if I can hire more help. Do you know if I can hire more help? My account says I'm profitable, but at the end of the day, where's the money? I don't see it in an account. It's some number on a piece of paper, but I can't touch it, feel it, smell it. And I don't know where all my money goes. So if you've heard any of these things, you want to go ahead and write that down. And the other thing you can start doing at this point too is start writing down current clients that have said this. We're going to get you a little bit farther ahead on this, right? I'm going to give you a little bit of a lead here. So if you have heard any of your clients say this, I want you to jot down their name next to each one of these. And if there's another problem that keeps coming up, feel free to jot it down for yourself as well. Put a face and a client to these problems. All right. So go ahead and do that now. Take a moment to do that because I know that you've heard this. These are the top issues that we hear from our clients, our prospects. And so we want to make sure that we are being mindful, thinking about those situations and jotting down. So we're not sending you off with any homework. What we're doing here is we're just making sure that you're using your time here to work through everything that we're teaching here today so we can have some immersion. So here's the thing. All those problems we just outlined, people can have multiple problems, right? So they could have maybe one or two of these problems or maybe three or four at a time. But here's the thing. This is the other part of sitting in that advisory seat. When our prospect lays out all of these different issues, what we have to do is we have to listen for cues. And this is where some of the magic happens because the problem that they have, it's got to be visceral, meaning that they have to give some sort of reaction. Like, so if we go back to these problems and your client says, oh, I don't have any money to pay my taxes. They're like throwing their hands up or their voice rises or their voice lowers or they exhale in exasperation or they slam their hands down, whatever it is. Figure out where you're getting the visceral reaction. So that is what we want to hang our hat on. It's the visceral reaction because that particular problem out of all of them, if you're getting a reaction, say they have 4 problems and you're getting a big reaction on one, like just say it's the taxes one, like they really, really hate paying taxes. You have to understand that now you've got it. You've got it. You've got the gold. Because when you have a visceral, when your client or your prospect has a visceral reaction to a problem, that's how you know you've got the glue. And I'm going to show you this. It's a sticky factor. We always want a sticky factor in sales. And the sticky factor has to do with the problem. It's the visceral problem this is the sticky factor to what is going to solve their problem, which are your advisory services. So this is how you tee it up. This is how you get that conversation going, right? So we're starting to deconstruct this a little bit for you. So what I want you to know, and the reason why I put this visual up is because compliance conversations are just contributing to the overall noise out in the marketplace, right? So if you have business owners that are looking for accounting and bookkeeping services, like remember the compliance stuff is really going to that AI side. It's not fully here, but it's starting, right? So we have to make sure we're working with it. So we want to start getting away from the compliance conversations because it's just a bunch of noise. It's like people aren't even paying attention anymore. And I want to give you an example of this because I get marketed through LinkedIn all the time. And maybe you've seen some of these things. I want to give you an example. So I get these messages saying, hey, I work as a Xero and QuickBooks Pro advisor with a team of CPAs and bookkeepers. I can provide back-end help, handling accounting, cost-effective prices, save a lot of time, right? Very, very transactional compliance, right? Doesn't get my attention. Next, we're a full service. We've got bookkeeping and accounting. Let's call and chat. We're talking about reasonable cost, right? You know, this isn't a race to zero with the costs here, right? But I want you to see that this is what the conversations that are going on all the time with your prospects, right? And your future clients. This is the noise that's in front of them and they're just dismissing it. So all I'm telling you is that you don't have to contribute to the noise. Why do you want to say everything that everybody else is saying? Go ahead, shift all of this right upside down and make sure that you're looking at this from that advisory standpoint and asking those higher level questions like the ones that we just outlined. Those are their top problems, right? So here's what you want to do in order to generate some conversations and the right things to say. I like to call this the magic invite, and it's actually an email. So you're going to want to jot this down or even screenshot this at this point. Here's an email that you can send out to either some current clients if you want to try to up-level them to advisory, or if you've got some prospects that maybe you've talked to in the past, or you know an industry that has an ongoing problem. So let me show you how this works. So it's a very, very short and sweet letter too, right? So you want to make sure that you're short, you're sweet. Why? Because people don't read, they scan. You want to get their attention. You don't want to contribute to the noise, right? You don't want some big, long email or even a post, you want to keep it really short and sweet, but very, very pointed, right between the eyes. That's what you want to do. So subject line, blank, strategy for blank quarter, right? Hi name, blank is an ongoing problem in your blank industry. Would you please send me a few times we could talk next week? It'll only take about 30 minutes to review. Let me show you how you can fill this in with a problem, right? So if somebody has a problem, they're like, I just want more profits in my business. I've been running a net business for a number of years. And where are my profits, right? My CPA says I have profitability. I don't see it, right? This is a big problem and I wish you would solve it for me, right? So this is something that you can go ahead and put this into an email. So subject line is profitability strategy for Q3, Q4, wherever you are. So profitability is an ongoing problem in your IT managed services industry. Would you please send me a few dates and times, right? So this is where you can start getting people's attention, and you're really honing in on those visceral problems that people are having. So just say you had a sales conversation in the past, somebody wasn't ready, but you really picked up on a big problem that they were having. That is the thing that you can put out there to go ahead and bring them back to another conversation. And this is where that advisory piece comes in. We're not talking compliance anymore, right? We're getting very, very specific with that specific problem, putting it in an email format so we can invite them to another call or an initial call with regards to this problem, right? Because what you're doing as we're going through this is you're positioning yourself as the expert to solve this. Isn't that fantastic? The expert to solve this. That is who you are. All right. So now let's go through and show you how you can fill this in a little bit more, with each of these problems. So we go back to, I never have any money to pay my taxes. In the email, you would call it a money for taxes strategy, right? That's the strategy call that you want to have. I want to pay myself more. Pay yourself first strategy, right? I want something to show for all my hard work. How about a quarterly dividend strategy, right? People like that. Big problem, but big solution, right? Up leveling the conversation and getting their attention, right? Now you've really separated yourself from the competition, right? No more noise. I don't know if I can hire more help. How about a hiring strategy? Right? We talked about the profitability and I don't know where all my money goes. How about a find the money strategy? Doesn't this make it so much more interesting? And if it's interesting to you, I'll tell you it's super interesting to your business owner, because this is what they want to talk about. Remember, I'm talking to your future clients all day long. This is what they're talking about. So go ahead and start the conversations with topics like these, because this is what's hitting them. This is what's really, really at the heart of a lot of their issues and the things that they want to talk about. So, like I said, this is all great, but if you don't implement, it doesn't matter. So I want to invite you to, because we already did some of the work, right? In the beginning of that slide, when I showed you all the challenges, I had you to put in people's names. So all you have to do is just pull them out and send the email. That's all you have to do, right? Super simple stuff, but you got to do it, right? Choose 10 warm prospects to send an email and keep it simple and specific. So make sure you use that outline. Very simple. It's very, very pointed. It will get their attention, and you have a clear call to action. So you've checked all the boxes with regards to that. So now you know exactly how to start the conversation, exactly what to say and how to say it. And the hot topics, those visceral topics that are going to get prospects' attention so they have a conversation with you and not your competition. And you want to know what? AI can't do this. AI can't do this. It's all you. All right. So next, let's go to, how do you show your value? I hear this all the time with people. They have conversations with prospects and they're like, man, that was a tough conversation. They just don't get the value that I bring to the table. So here's the thing. We can talk about our value, but what we have to do is we have to show prospects. We have to show them our value. We've got to show it. So here's the problem behind the problem, right? Like I said, we talk about our value, and sometimes, we know what we do and how hard we work. And I know the services that you offer and how hard you work and the value behind it. Why? Because I work with you guys all the time. But on the other hand, business owners don't necessarily know that, right? If we treat bookkeeping and accounting in a compliance standpoint, that people put it in a box, right? It's just transactions. There's really no value there. It's like a necessary evil, but we want to create that value, right? So we can't just talk about it. We have to show our value, and we just don't know how to do that. So guess what? We're going to be lifting the veil and showing you that today. You're going to have it all. So here's what you got to do. You have to show your prospects and clients. You got to show them the money. Show them the money. You cannot expect them to do math. You have to do it for them. I'm going to show you what this looks like. So here's what's missing from your sales conversations. This is how we up-level those conversations so you can start selling either higher level bookkeeping services, or if you're stepping into advisory, got to talk about the ROI. You have to talk about the ROI of working with you, because there is one. In every instance, there is an ROI that exists. You just have to pull it out in the conversation. I'm going to show you how to do that. All right. So you got to talk about it. You got to talk about the return of working with you, because like I say, and I love, love, love to say this, is that your services are not another line item expense, right? You are there to make sure that you are creating profitability, right? And improvements in the business. So you are not a line item expense. All right. So there's a monetary value to everything. Let me say that again. There is a monetary value to absolutely everything when it comes to your sales conversations. And when you're talking with a new prospect, you can absolutely pull out the value of working with you. I'm going to give you two examples. There are two ways to do this. So first way is a direct way. The second way is an indirect way. And I'm going to give you an example of each. The direct way, there's a monetary value that is expressed within the conversation. So it becomes very, very easy. The second way isn't so obvious, right? It actually shows up as lack of time, right? Time or money is the issue here. But let me show you how this works. Let me kind of tell you a story here. So I wound up talking with this HR consulting company probably about 9 months ago. They did become a client of mine. And that's why I love telling this story, because this is so the common thread through so many of the conversations. So this is kind of how it went, is that these two people were HR professionals. They came together, started a partnership in a company. They came from corporate, right? So they were both earning six-figure businesses, and they wanted to make sure that they were doing things right when they were starting their company. They had gotten some government contracts, and they started to implement things on their business. Now, they were early on in their business, but here's two things that they wanted. They wanted to make sure that they were profitable, right? Or set up for profitability, right? In the first year, they had some things that they had to invest in. So profitability wasn't going to be the number one thing out of the gate. But one of the things that was really important to them is that they replace their six-figure incomes. And so I said to them, I said, okay, so that's really important to you. Tell me, what does that look like? She said, well, we're both making $100,000 each. I said, okay, so you want to figure out a plan based on what you have and what's going on right now. Maybe you'll need to take on a couple more clients, but how do you get to replacing your six-figure income? So in that example, you can hear in that conversation that we're solving for two salaries here, 100,000 here and 100,000 here. So that added together, it's a $200,000 problem you are solving for. These two people want to pay themselves $200,000 in a payroll, right? That's what they want to do. And so that is an example of a direct correlation to an ROI. If I work with them, we are looking to solve this $200,000 problem. That's how you talk about the ROI, right? So, and that is a direct story. Let me show you a story that's more indirect of how we find the value, right? In this story here, it's $200,000 value. That's the value of the solution of working with me. Now, with the realtor, not so much. So I actually partner with one of my clients who's a bookkeeper, and we had this conversation together with a real estate investor, right? So he was a real estate professional as well as real estate investor. So this first showed up as he had multiple buildings, he had multiple P&Ls, and he was doing all of his own bookkeeping. So we got on the phone with him and was looking at why he wanted to have the conversation with my client that day. And he just said, listen, I've got all this bookkeeping and I'm not quite sure, where I can make some improvements. Can you teach me some things, right? And so what we did is we positioned the conversation to say, all right, it wasn't like, he wanted some improvements in his bookkeeping. Well, how do we find the ROI in that? He wasn't explicitly coming out with anything. So as far as a solution that he wanted to his problem. So we kind of flipped the script a little bit and looked at it from a time perspective. So here's how we approach it. We said, okay, so it sounds like you're running multiple P&Ls. How long does the bookkeeping take each week for you? And he said, oh, it probably takes about 3 hours a week for me to get through all of it. All right, great. So If that's 3 hours a week, would you agree that's probably about 12 hours a month? He said, yeah, I would agree with that. And we said to him, all right, what would you be able to do in your business? What would you be able to gain if you were able to get 12 hours back in your business every single month? What would you be able to do with those 12 hours? He was like, oh, right, visceral reaction. Wow, I'd be able to close a couple new sales, definitely some new opportunities, and be able to probably sell some of my inventory that I have in real estate. Great. So what is each deal worth about to you if you were able to sell, right? How many are you able to sell now? He gave us a number. How many additional would you be able to sell? He's like, oh, I'd be able to definitely close a deal, within the next 30 days. And how much is a deal typically worth? He did a lot of commercial real estate. He's about $80,000. And he said, wow. He said, all right, so that's 12 hours a month. Wow, wow. Let me think about that. Wow, I'd probably be able to close maybe 2 or 3 deals. So with that, we went from an $80,000 deal. If we gave him back time, $80,000 deal, he thought about it twice. He's like, no, I'd probably be able to close 2 or 3 of those if I had more time each month and I could offload this bookkeeping. Can you see the value? We gave him time back so he could do other things so he could increase his revenue. So he told us right from his mouth, 80 times three, right? 80,000 times 3 deals, that's $240,000 in revenue that he is leaving on the table because he's spending in bookkeeping. He shouldn't be doing bookkeeping, right? He should be doing what he's really, really good at. So that is how we positioned it in this situation. We took time, right? The time suck it takes him to do this. What else could he be doing? And he's the one that came up with those numbers. There's the value. What that bookkeeper would be doing is giving him back time and an opportunity and a roadmap to be able to earn an extra $240,000 a month. There's the value. That is how you want to express the value to your business owners and the CEOs of companies, whoever you're talking to that's running businesses, because that's what they understand. If I put $1 out, how many dollars am I going to get back? This is how they process information. That's why I say, don't make your prospects do math. You've got to do it for them and walk them through this process. This is what clinches it. This is how you show your value. All right. So here's your action items. This takes a little practice, but give it a little time. I'm telling you, this pays so many dividends. I use this on all my sales conversations, and then it becomes a breeze for the prospects to be able to say yes to working with me. No convincing, no slimy car salesman stuff, none of that. It becomes very, very clear. They know you're the person and they're like, where do I sign and where do I start? So on your next sales call, start creating the ROI. See if you can start pulling out, what is that monetary figure, right? Is it direct or indirect? Is it based on money or is it based on time for the problems that you're solving? Put a dollar figure around it so we know what the value is. What are we solving for? Is it a $100,000 problem? Is it a $50,000 problem? Is it a $500,000 problem? Add it all up. You'll be able to drive the ROI. This is what your business owners understand. This is how they process and practice. Practice makes perfect. Keep doing it and you will get there. But this will get you started and on your way. Okay. So lastly, how to overcome imposter syndrome. Oh my gosh, this really breaks my heart when I hear people talk about, man, I feel like, why me? Like, I feel like I'm just faking it until I make it. Or, I don't know if I could charge more, or I don't know if I deserve the business, or can I handle it? And I know you can. I work with all of you all the time. And so I just want to make sure we're putting this to bed for the last time. And I've got a strategy around this that makes it really super easy, that just, went ahead and laid the foundation with the other two principles. This really ties it in all together. And so now we're going to go ahead and put the cherry on top of the cake and on top of the sundae and say, we're going to overcome imposter syndrome. So who here is getting in their own way when it comes to selling your services, right? Because, that little voice inside that says, you can't do this, right? That's what that imposter syndrome is. There is a way to overcome it. So here's the thing. When it comes to sales, and when you get to the point where you're trying to put some numbers around this of what you're going to charge your client, one of the things we can do that makes this much easier, it's like, oh, we feel like we need to perform. We feel like we need to put on all these bells and whistles, and like, it's almost like a circus performer, right? We feel like we have to be a circus performer and give them all this stuff and entertain them and do all this stuff, but we don't have to, right? All we have to do is make sure we're finding the value. And then when we're putting this all together is take ourselves out of the offer. Let's just not even stress out, put all of that worry and stress to the side. It's not about us. It's about our prospect and our clients, right? Take us out of it. Take all those worries and the frets, put it to the side, right? So what we want to do is we want to go ahead and craft an offer that makes sense. Now, think back to at some point, you probably put out a proposal, send it out to a prospect, had a great conversation, and then you send out the engagement letter or you send out the what the proposal looks like, and then you never hear from them again, right? So a lot of times that happens. People will ghost you. You're not quite sure what happened. Typically, the reason why that happens is because whatever you put in front of them and whatever you talked about, it didn't make sense to them. Because what is it that they do? As soon as you pop that proposal over in an email, they open it up, they look at the bottom line number, and they're like, that doesn't make any sense to me. And they shut down and you'll never hear from them again. So the key here is that you have to craft an offer that makes sense. So when that proposal goes over, that's the afterthought. They're already very, very clear about what the value of the engagement is going to be. So when that proposal goes over, it's no sweat. We've already gone through this. We've already talked about it. I don't have to do math as a business owner, and the offer makes sense. Here's how we do it. You want to go ahead and position the ROI next to your offer. So I'm going to visually show you how to do this. It's a calculation. This is the one way to get started with this. Take this, write it down, screenshot it, do whatever you need to do. Here is the calculation. Is blank a fair return for a blank investment? All right, so let's go back to our HR gals, right? The HR company that I wound up working with. We went ahead and put this together. So if we kind of look at that situation, and then you look at it and say, what would you charge in that situation? What do you want to charge? So a lot of people ask me, what's the right thing to charge in certain situations? And to me, I say it doesn't matter what you charge. It just has to make sense, right? I don't care what you charge. You can charge whatever you want, right? But at the same time, it just has to make sense. So in that, if we're looking at that situation of the HR company and we're trying to price this thing and get it out the door, what is it that you would charge, right? So let's go ahead and just say we're going to proposal out for $1,000 a month to work with them on ABC, XYZ. It doesn't matter. Right? So let's look at this. Let's go ahead and take that situation and fill in the calculation. So now we know $1,000 a month is $12,000 for the year. Let's fill it in. So what is it that our HR partners wanted? They had a $200,000 problem that they wanted me to solve, right? Or get them on the way to solve, right? So is $200,000 a fair return for a $12,000 investment? We put it in these terms, we put it in black and white, and we're able to see this. When our eyes are on this, when we look at this, how do we answer this? We say, heck yeah, this is like, oh my gosh, I can't even believe, like, this is a bargain. Maybe I should raise my prices, right? So when we put it in this format, excuse me one second, when we put it in this format, it becomes very, very easy for you to see that this offer makes sense, right? And so this is exactly how your business owner thinks. They think in exactly this equation. And that's why we're putting it together. That's why I tell you, don't make your business owners do math. You want to go ahead and bring the value by showing them the value. But then when you're putting your proposal together, this is how you figure out what you're going to charge. Right? This is what we're doing in the background. Before we even put a proposal in front of them, we're gathering data. We're making sure we've got the value. Now we're going to back office this before we put it in front of them. Does this make sense? It's a resounding yes, right? Now we're looking at like, maybe I'll tweak that up a little bit, right? The ROI is clear. Do the math for them. This is over a 15 times ROI. Like a business owner can get behind that. Yes, it's great what you're going to do for them. You're going to do this, you're going to do that. That's great. But more importantly, they want to know if I put $1 out, what am I going to get back? In this case, I put $1 out, I get 15. Right? Now, I know some of the objections that people come up and say, well, what if I can't deliver this? Right? So here's the thing. Whatever you're going to do in a proposal and an execution, you are getting your clients on a roadmap or a path, right? You're creating the plan to get them there. They may not be able to get there today, but at least they're going to have the plan to get there. So you're getting them on the way. You are creating the plan for them to get there. And as long as everything lines up and they take your advice of what they need to do, they're going to get there because nobody knows better than you. You hold the gold as bookkeepers and accounts because you get to see all the numbers, the inflows, the outflows. You have got an amazing vantage point from where you are. The business owners don't. That's what they want from you. All right. So now you just need to ask yourself while you're at your desk before the proposal goes out, does your offer make sense? Does your offer make sense, right? You want to make sure that it makes sense. And in this case, it absolutely did. Would you buy from you? Heck yeah. And maybe I'd pay you a little bit more, right? So you want to be able to answer this question for yourself before you go ahead and send out those proposals. So sell yourself first. This is the key to overcoming imposter syndrome, especially when it comes to that pricing and not knowing what to do and, looking at it from a lot of different perspectives. It doesn't matter. Sell yourself first. Position everything in the equation I gave you. It's visual. You look at it at a glance. You're like, heck yeah. Then that's when the proposal goes out. Sell yourself first, and you'll never have to deal with imposter syndrome again. Is that a lovely thing? So here's your action items. Make sure you test your offer. Use the equation. Do it in your office first before you put it in front of a client, because if you can believe in your own pricing and your own offer and you've showed them the value, then your client or your future client can believe in it too, right? So this also creates a high level of confidence. And when you have confidence, wow, you act very, very different with your clients and prospects when you talk with them. So confidence high, everything makes sense. You push it out, it comes back. It comes back much, much easier when you're not quite sure and you're just throwing something against the wall and seeing if it sticks, right? We don't have to do that anymore. We've got a really, really nice process to be able to dial this in and sell yourself first. This is going to go so far for you. I see this all the time, but you want to know what? We don't have to deal with it ever again. Right. So let's go ahead and do a quick little review. You learned so much here today, right? So I want to go ahead and congratulate you for making it through these salient points. And the thing is next, it's going to be actionable, right? So how to up-level yourself to advisory. You want to find the visceral problem, right? We talked about a number of them. Start highlighting that. And that's what you want to be talking about and dangling in front of your prospects, right? Move away from those compliance questions, get into advisory, get to the deeper level problems, not the transactional questions. So how to show your value. Oh, look at Cuba Gooding Jr.'s little face there. Isn't he adorable? All right. So you got to find the ROI. Like I like visuals to go ahead and equate to what I want to be doing. So find the ROI, show them the money. Don't make your prospects do math, do it for them. And then they're able to understand so much more what you bring to the table. And they're like, wow, that was easy. That's a no-brainer, right? You have to do the math for them. And you got to talk about the ROI. You got to talk about it, because if you've had problems with your sales conversations and you're kind of scratching your head to say, wow, that person ghosted me, they never got back to me, or they said, oh, maybe later, or they put up some sort of an objection, they didn't understand it. Why? Because they didn't understand the ROI. Got to talk about it. All right. How to overcome imposter syndrome and put that to rest for the rest of your life, right? No more. Craft an offer that makes sense. Make sure you're doing the math for them. Put that, we call that a price juxtaposition. You put the offer next to the investment, and it becomes so much easier when they understand and you calculate the ROI for them. Right back in the example, they give you $1, they're going to get back 15. That's an easy yes for them. All right. So these are actionable steps that you can implement today. That is such good news. As soon as you are off this training, you can go ahead and start sending out those emails and start having conversations. Start vetting the ROI, putting together offers that make sense, and selling yourself first so that your clients can go ahead and say yes, super easy to what you have to offer. I know how hard you work. I know how valuable you are. This is just about up-leveling it and getting to that next level and getting out of those compliance conversations. And this is where the dividends are going to get paid. You're going to get great clients and get compensated for your time, and they're going to understand your value. So it's a win-win across the board. So thank you so much for attending today. It's been such a pleasure to serve all of you. And I have one last thing for you here today because I want to make sure that we just go the next step, right? I want to make sure we've done some good work together here today. You're all teed up to send out your emails and everything else. But what I also want to do is I want to super equip you. I want to supersize this, right? I want to make sure you're really, really set up for the conversation. So you know how to do this part, but there's also some people who just, when they get on a sales calls, they kind of freeze. They don't know what to say or how to say it. You've got some good pieces here, but I want to give you something tangible to walk away with. So what I actually have here is if you hop over to mastermysales.com, you can download the 6 questions to ask on every sales conversation. So this is a guide that's like paint by numbers. You know, paint by numbers, it says, orange in number 2, and you just paint, right? And it's super easy. This is exactly what this is. So you never have to guess what to say or how to say it on a sales call. It takes you right from the beginning all the way through with regards to what we talked about here today. So it's a nice recap for you. So if you'd like to download that guide, hop over to mastermysales.com and do so. All right, everyone. Such a pleasure here to be here with you. I want you to go get them because you want to know what? There is so much opportunity out there. People are looking for what you have. I talk to them all day long. I know they're out there for you, and I know you are the person for them. So make sure you show the value of what you are offering, do the math for them, show them the ROI, and you're going to gain new clients. All right. Such a pleasure, everyone. Be good. Take care.